The UN Security Council condemns Syria's shelling of a Turkish border town in the strongest terms after 5 people were killed in an attack.
The presidential candidates hit the campaign trail on the heels of a primetime debate that most analysts say Mitt Romney won. President Obama is working to recover from a debate performance that disappointed many of his strongest supporters.
And health officials are scrambling to notify patients in nearly 24 states that the routine steroid injections they receive for back pain may have been tainted. The shots have been linked to a deadly strain of meningitis. All these stories and more next on Ebru Today. Welcome to Ebru Today. We bring the world to your world. I'm Mia Toski.
And I'm Francesca Maxime in for Brian Jenkins. Thanks so much for joining us on Ebru Today this Friday. Well, we start our day with the United Nations. The Security Council overcame deep divisions to unanimously approve a statement condemning Syria's shelling of a Turkish border town in the strongest terms.
Now, that mortar attack killed 2 adults and 3 children. Ebru Today's Sherry Richardson joins us now live from our New York City bureau with more. Sherry?
Mia, council members managed to bridge differences between the strong statement demanded by the United States and its Western supporters and backed by its NATO ally Turkey, and a weaker text pushed by Russia, Syria's most important ally.
The press statement read by Guatemala's UN ambassador, the current Security Council president, said the incident highlighted the grave impact the crisis in Syria has on the security of its neighbors and on regional peace and stability.
The members of the Security Council condemned in the strongest terms the shelling by the Syrian armed forces of the Turkish town of Akkari, which resulted in the deaths of 5 civilians, all of whom were women and children. The members of the Council demanded that such violations of international law stop immediately and are not repeated.
In retaliation to the attack, Turkey responded by firing artillery rounds into Syria. The country also convened parliament for a vote authorizing further cross-border military operations if necessary. The bill to allow the military to conduct cross-border operations into Syria was overwhelmingly approved. Earlier, Syria's UN envoy said his government is not seeking any escalation in violence with Turkey and wants to maintain good neighborly relations. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the United States offered its condolences to Turkey. A State Department spokesperson said Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton spoke to Turkey's foreign minister on the phone and expressed America's sympathies.
The Secretary also used that opportunity to condemn the Syrian attack and to pledge U.S. support for our ally Turkey. I think from our perspective, the response that Turkey made was appropriate. It also was designed to strengthen the deterrent effect so that these kinds of things don't happen again, and it was proportional.
Turkey's prime minister said his country does not war with Syria, but that it is determined to protect its borders and people. Reporting live from New York City, I'm Sherry Richardson. Mia?
A lot of world leaders are calling this a very serious situation. What was Syria's response to the attack?
Well, Mia, according to a top Turkish official, Syria admitted it was responsible for the shelling and formally apologized for the deaths.
Thanks very much, Sherry.
Well, after those 5 people were killed when a Syrian shell hit a Turkish border town Wednesday, protesters have now taken to the streets in Ankara and Istanbul after Turkey's parliament approved military operations against targets in Syria. Erin Aid joins us now with more on that. Erin.
Yes, that's right, Francesca and Mia. Now, around 5,000 people took to the streets of Istanbul on Thursday evening in an anti-war protest. Protesters chanted slogans against the war as they carried anti-government banners.
After a peaceful beginning to the demonstrations, protesters in Ankara clashed with police after they tried to block them from moving around the city. Tear gas and high-pressure water cannons, as well as smoke guns and warning shots, were used against protesters in an attempt to break their lines.
We are against all the war propaganda that's led in this country by different news channels. We are aware that there are many international news channels that are trying to provoke war.
In Istanbul, several thousand protesters gathered in Taksim Square to demonstrate against the threat of war. The international media, the U.S. and Western powers were also criticized by demonstrators. Turkey fired on Syrian targets for a second day on Thursday, but said it had no intention of declaring war, despite tensions after deadly shelling from Syria killed 5 civilians in a Turkish border town of Akale.
The border violence has added a dangerous new dimension to a conflict that is pulling Syria's neighbor deeper into what already resembles a proxy war.
It's a tough situation over there. We're going to keep monitoring that. Thanks, Erin.
Thanks very much, Erin. All right, in other news, President Obama has harsh words for Republican challenger Mitt Romney. With only 1 month left in the presidential election, the candidates are hitting the campaign trail hard after Wednesday's debate. Now, while that debate was considered a win for Romney, the president says it was not a true representation of the man who has been running all along. Our Washington-based correspondent Robin Hamilton has more. Robin?
Mia, well, analysts on both sides of the political fence are in fact saying that Romney did win the debate. Meanwhile, President Obama's camp is saying that they will, in fact, have to change their style. That's an acknowledgement on their part. But at the same time, many people are saying that Romney drastically changed his platform and his message during the debates, so much so that some of the pundits are calling him Reboot Romney, a charge that President Obama jumped on during his most recent campaign visit.
Both President Obama and Republican challenger Mitt Romney are hitting the campaign trail hard after Wednesday's debate, which was considered a success for the former Massachusetts governor. With a new confident stride on the campaign trail, Romney reveled in the victory as he made a surprise visit to Colorado's Conservative Political Action Conference.
Last night I thought was a great opportunity for the American people to see two very different visions for the country. And I think it was helpful to be able to describe those visions. I saw the president's vision as trickle-down government, and I don't think that's what America believes in. I see instead a prosperity that comes through freedom.
However, during a campaign rally in Denver, President Barack Obama challenged the sincerity of that vision, saying Romney misrepresented himself on that stage.
When I got onto the stage, I met this very spirited fellow who claimed to be Mitt Romney. But it couldn't have been Mitt Romney, because the real Mitt Romney has been running around the country for the last year promising $5 trillion in tax cuts that favor the wealthy. The fellow on stage last night said he didn't know anything about that.
Now, analysts say that while Romney's win is significant, they say it's still the first debate, and they're not sure how much it will last. It may earn him a point or two for recent polls, but again, they don't know how lasting that will be. And again, President Obama's team said that they will readjust their strategy for the next one to come. Back to you, Mia.
A lot of people are talking about that 47% comment, and analysts have been critical of the president for not taking an opportunity to challenge Romney on things like that.
Absolutely right, Mia. And you know what? The person who's now addressing it is Mitt Romney, who is now saying that comment was a mistake, and he insists that he supports 100% of the people in the United States. There are now 13 days left until the second debate, so we'll see if that comes up again. Back to you.
That's right. 2 more presidential debates and a vice presidential debate as well. Thank you so much.
Well, at least 5 people have died from meningitis linked to steroid shots for back pain. A factory in New England is the likely source of the contaminated shots, and it's been shut down. The U.S. government is warning doctors and hospitals not to use any products from a specialty pharmacy that makes Depo-Medrol. It's a type of steroid suspected in a meningitis outbreak that's claimed 5 lives. The shots are apparently contaminated by fungus. Dr. John Jernigan with the CDC says there are now 35 reported cases of the outbreak in 6 states.
CDC is working with state and local health departments to contact patients who may have received injections at the facilities who received the recalled lots of this medication, to inform that they may have been exposed, to find out if they're having symptoms, and to instruct them to seek health care should they be ill.
It's not clear how many people received tainted injections. Richard Jenkins was given 3 shots and had been contacted after, but was not given clear instructions.
They didn't say anything about the meningitis outbreak or anything like that, or I needed to take any kind of precautions, or if I had any kind of symptoms to notify them or whatever.
So far, people in Tennessee, Virginia, Maryland, Florida, North Carolina, and Indiana have all contracted fungal meningitis. 5 have died. All had received steroid shots for back pain.
That's the fear that's been generated, is that there is no way of knowing or protecting against this, because the anesthesiologist who's doing the injection, the nurse who's preparing the materials for the injection would have no idea that this is a contaminated lot.
All right, well, say you've gotten a shot and you want to know whether or not you could be affected. These are the symptoms. They appear within a month or so of having received the shot, and they include fever, headaches, and neck stiffness. If you have any concerns, obviously go straight to your doctor.
We're going to move things over to Wisconsin now, where the Sikh community is still struggling to come to grips with a shocking attack by a man inside a temple. 6 people were killed and 3 others injured, including a police officer, on August 5th. This week, dignitaries from India, including the country's ambassador and the foreign minister, came to suburban Milwaukee to pay their respects. Indian dignitaries came to Wisconsin to tour the temple where just 1 month ago tragedy struck. An Army veteran and self-proclaimed white supremacist opened fire, killing 6 worshipers and injuring 3 others. Temple President Satwang Singh Kaleka was killed in the attack. His godson said this visit was greatly appreciated.
We don't have any hatred for that guy. That guy was a psychopath, that I understand. It was a heinous crime. We can never even think about it. But forgiveness, that's what we can do here. We cannot go ahead and tackle it with violence.
Reminders of the shooting were everywhere in the temple. Banners signed by hundreds of well-wishers plastered the walls as heavy security was everywhere. India's Minister of External Affairs described the mass shooting as a senseless act of violence and told the crowd, "I convey the sympathy of 1 billion people," referring to India's total population.
We have been assured by the government of United States that the highest protection will be given to all the gurudwaras, in United States and other places of worship of this country.
The FBI has declared the attack an act of domestic terrorism, but is still investigating what drove the man and whether he had any help. And that man killed himself during the attack after he was wounded in a firefight with another officer. His motives remain unclear. Now for a look at what's being covered in the newspapers today, Francesca is over at the Live Touch with a look at the international headlines. And where are you taking us?
We are going to go straight to Turkey and the Syrian conflict there and its spillover into Turkey. We're going to look at the Wall Street Journal right now, the European edition. You can see here, these are Turkish soldiers. The headline, Turkey hit Syria, adding war powers. This is a picture of those Turkish soldiers taking positions Thursday in the border town of Akashale, where 5 people were killed on Wednesday. Now, Turkey attacked targets inside Syria for a second day, and Parliament authorized the government to launch military offensives to foreign countries, further escalating cross-border tensions a day after Syrian shells in that border town. It's unclear whether the strikes from Syria on Wednesday were intentional or accidental. Turkish troops now also have the go-ahead from the government to be sent to foreign nations, citing rising national security threats. Now we're going to head over to the UK's Independent. We've sort of been talking about this already a little bit this morning. Barack Obama, could Obama's complacency cost him the election? The paper asks, what happened to the president? He's usually known for his uplifting manner and for his way with words. In the first presidential debate on Wednesday night, however, that was not the case. The paper calls Obama listless and lackluster, unwilling to take the battle to Mitt Romney. The paper says that he was short on memorable lines and didn't even mention the famous 47% of Americans who Romney had said considered themselves victims. He also didn't mention Romney's business dealings at Bain Capital, 14% tax rates, Cayman Islands investments, or George Bush. The paper says Obama was a rambling lectures and could prove costly to him. Of course, we're going to see and follow those debates, but that is in the UK's Independent. Over here to the China Daily. I'm going to leave you with a little fun stuff here this Friday. Check that out. Look a little familiar? And China producers have come a long way in making primetime reality shows for Chinese viewers. This picture says well-known musician Liu Han will appear in The Voice of China as the show's judge and coach. Okay, one of them anyway. The China Daily says the past 3 years have been a golden age for Chinese TV reality shows. Singing contests, dating shows, and game shows, they're just popping up, and they seem to imitate some other Western shows. It's said now that people are more focused on getting authorization to reproduce shows like the ones seen here in the United States. I know perhaps like The Voice, like Christina Aguilera and that, show. It seems like it's a little bit of a copycat. I guess they might have been a little upset about potentially infringing on that.
Well, they're successful here. It might work over there as well. Thanks so much,
Imitation
Princess.
is the best form of flattery.
There you go. All right, coming up next on Ebru Today, tragedy strikes an elementary school in China. We'll have the latest on deadly landslides in the region. And public education in Georgia goes high-tech. We'll take a look at why pens, papers, and notebooks may be a thing of the past at one school. And voter ID laws in Ohio come under fire. Why are critics upset over existing laws? We'll take a look when Ebru Today returns.
Here in New York, it has been a soupy
very
last few days.
It's going to be 80 degrees today.
Yeah, again, it's sort of, I don't know, Indian summer. I don't know if it's technically true or not, but Matt Locker's over at Live Touch with the international weather, which begins over in the Atlantic. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. I will answer that question when we get to the national
Thank
segment.
you. Sounds good. Okay.
And good morning. Our Atlantic discussion brings us to Oscar. That's this mass of clouds we see out over the Atlantic Ocean. Location 23 degrees north by 39 degrees west. That puts us about 1,000 miles off the Cape Verde Islands. Now, it has been caught up in the jet stream, which means rather than making a trek towards the Caribbean islands or making a trek towards America, what it's doing is it is been picked up by a trough, and it is headed right up into Europe. And Europe is where we will land next, because as the northern end of this trough crosses over, it's bringing rain to areas like London, Brussels, Paris, seeing a little bit of the borderline there. Temperatures, well, pretty much in the 60s through there. High pressure the rule over the Mediterranean, keeping things very pleasant there. Then we go over to Asia, where we're still keeping our eye on the storm Jiami in the South China Sea, and that's the bundle of clouds associated with a lot of rainfall in the area. That's this storm right here, and it has been headed towards the Philippines, and it made a U-turn. It's working its way back towards the mainland. It's at dropping rain at a rate of about an inch an hour, gusts near 70 miles an hour, tracking westward, and there are small craft advisories and warnings in effect, because although the storm is here, the ripples in the waterways and the currents really do extend outward, so maritime activity is definitely affected by that storm there. Now, a cloud of commerce sorts caught the attention of many in China. Interesting video from China. It is a waterfall cloud. This is just rolling through the mountain peaks, the trees. This site is captured in East China. A rare scene, left quite a conversation piece amongst the residents there. Really just looks like a river of cloud rolling on through the hills of yonder. Could almost put Hogwarts on that mountain. That is our whirl around the world in weather. We'll check the rapidly changing national forecast as Ebru Today continues.
Thanks, Matt. And we're going to stay in China, where a landslide has now claimed 19 lives. Rescuers are now searching for victims after a landslide came crashing down onto an elementary school in the Yunnan province. Nearly 800 people also had to be relocated in the area. Now, officials say it's possible there are still more victims. The cause of the landslide is still not yet known, but officials say the area was struck by an earthquake last month that killed 81 people. The students were actually in class to make up for a school delayed by the quakes despite the National Day holiday celebrations.
In Australia, dozens of mourners have gathered in the capital to remember a murdered Irish woman. At a memorial service on Friday, close relatives called Jill Meagher's determined and successful career ending in a tragic way. Family and friends attended the private funeral while a public prayer service was held at a church in Melbourne, where the 29-year-old lived. Meagher was an employee of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, and she went missing in September while walking home after a night out with colleagues. Her body was found 6 days later in a shallow grave northwest of the city. A man has been charged with her rape and murder. The murder has prompted a public outpouring of grief and anger, inspiring around 30,000 people to join a peace march through the city last weekend.
And children at one public school in Georgia's capital are now using computers for classwork. Children at Tbilisi's elementary school are getting used to using their new computers for schoolwork instead of pen and papers. The Georgian government is funding the project and has spent more than $5 million to purchase 50,000 netbooks, they're called. Authorities believe that children will learn better with the help of technology. Officials say that netbooks are not intended to replace books, but to give children an up-to-date education. In addition to netbooks, so-called future classes have been opened in 80 other schools around the country.
Well, after a Pennsylvania voter ID law was passed, now another state, Ohio, is crying foul. Critics say laws passed since 2008 actually reduced the period allowed for early voting. Critics say these laws disenfranchise minority and low-income voters.
Sunday morning at this Cleveland church starts with a song. And as election season rolls in, a lecture from the pulpit.
Every individual vote counts. And you are responsible for your vote.
Many members take advantage of early voting, up to 6 weeks ahead of Election Day. It's a growing practice across the U.S., now seen as key by both political parties to maximize turnout.
Voted on Sunday, and then we didn't have to worry about trying to get to the polls and vote real early in the morning anymore.
But Republican lawmakers in Ohio and several other crucial swing states have passed new laws to shorten early voting periods. Many here call it a ploy to swing results in their favor.
The spirit behind that really is about just wanting to make sure that Ohio, being a swing state, that we don't get the Democratic vote and the turnout that we got 4 years ago.
Researchers say African Americans and Democrats made up the majority of early voters in Ohio in 2008. Pastor Harris took busloads of his flock to vote after church services on day.
All right, now it's time for a look at the newspapers all across America. Mia is over at Live Touch with the national headlines. Good morning, Mia.
Hey, we're going to start things off in Atlanta, where if you're a frequent flyer, you've been here before. And a little trivia, as we told you earlier this week, the busiest airport in the world has a passenger terminal complex that's bigger than 50 football fields. Okay, that's your trivia. Here's the news from there. Here it is. State faces major doctor shortage. So is there a doctor in the house? Apparently not. Now, the state is facing a major doctor shortage as aging baby boomers retire. The state has boosted enrollments by 50%, but the problem, there's not enough residencies. That's the final phase of medical training. Now, Georgia has fewer doctors per 100,000 people than any other state in the nation. All right, we're going to go over to the Denver Post, and they're still talking about the big debate there, and you can see both candidates were still in Denver, and the debate is over, rather, but there are still departing shots. That's the headline there, as the two candidates remained in Colorado Thursday. But it's not just the candidates. Get this, Twitter said the debate set a record for a political event by generating 10.3 million tweets in just 90 minutes. 17,000 tweets per minute were for Big Bird alone. That's after Mitt Romney said he would cut funding to PBS. Now, altogether, the debate was watched by 67 million people. That's up 28% from the first debate 4 years ago. All right, over to USA Today. And the new ads are putting, we're going to go over here, new ads are putting obese people in the spotlight. And it's from Nike to Subway to Blue Cross. Advertisers are using obese people in more ads. Now, the move comes at a time when 2 out of 3 adults in America are overweight. So the average person identifies with the ad more than seeing those skinny models. And Philadelphia? Let's go down to Philadelphia. It's a good city, Philadelphia. Here we go. Where are we going? Nope. Come on. We're going to try this again. Philadelphia. That's the show we want to start. This is Philadelphians to meld music with a movie classic. So if you want some entertainment, why not head to Philly this weekend? Now, on a wide screen over the Verizon Hall, the Philadelphia Orchestra will play a live accompaniment to West Side Story. They have done this to other movies before, like The Wizard of Oz. So it's sort of a way to get the whole town and city together and watch a movie with the accompaniment of some beautiful music.
Nothing wrong with that.
Let's go, Francesca.
Hey, why not? It's a short drive from here, that's for sure. All right, Mia, thanks so much for the headlines. Coming up next on Ebru Today this Friday, a close call for a group of South Korean tourists in Thailand. We'll take a look at how their holiday adventure turned scary. Yikes. The first presidential debate may be over, but the candidates continue to face off. We'll have the latest on campaign attack ads and have an interview live in our studio. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Ebru Today on this Friday morning. Now we're going to take a quick look at a wrap of today's top stories, and here's Erin Aid with that. Erin.
Thank you very much, Francesca. The UN Security Council has condemned Syria's shelling of a Turkish border town in the strongest terms. Members of the Security Council reached a rare compromise on the statement after 5 civilians were killed in Wednesday's mortar attack. The Council demanded an immediate end to such violations of international law. They've called on the Syrian government to fully respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of its neighbors. The presidential candidates are back on the campaign trail after Wednesday's primetime debate, in which most analysts say Republican Mitt Romney clearly won. Romney reveled in the victory on Thursday as he made a surprise visit to Colorado's Conservative Political Action Conference. Meantime, President Obama accused Romney of misrepresenting his past statements on taxes and education. Obama's aggressive stand came as his campaign conceded he will have to adjust his debate style. Health providers are scrambling to notify patients in nearly 24 states that the routine steroid injections they've received for back pain may have been tainted. At least 5 people have died from fungal meningitis linked to the shots. The CDC has said that there are now 35 reported cases of the outbreak in 6 states. A factory in New England is the likely source of the contaminated shots and has been shut down. And those are just some of your top stories for this Friday, October 5th, 2012.
All right, yeah, that's really awful. Imagine you're going in there for preventative treatment.
You'd never think, and then you come out with fungal meningitis. So if it's one of your states, check them out.
For sure. Thanks, Erin. All right, now we're going to take you all around the world in 60 seconds.
A close call for passengers of a speedboat in Thailand. More than 24 South Korean tourists were rescued as the boat sank from a leak. Venezuela's President Hugo Chavez greeted thousands of supporters gathered for his final campaign rally in Caracas. Chavez faces the toughest election of his 14-year rule on Sunday. The vote pits him against Enrique Capriles. Spain's royal couple is on a 2-day official visit to Panama. They were briefed on the progress of the Panama Canal expansion project. China is celebrating an 8-day-long festival national holiday thanks to the convergence of the Chinese National Day and the Mid-Autumn Festival. Chinese worldwide celebrate the dual holiday. Australia has unveiled the world's fastest radio telescope. The telescope, operating from the western part of the country, is expected to discover more than 700,000 new supergalaxies.
Well, with the first presidential debate behind us, the U.S. president and his Republican opponent, Mitt Romney, they aren't taking their feet off the gas. They are campaigning hard and creating new attack ads. Here to talk about whether those ads are more fact or fiction is campaign media analyst Jackie Guzdo. Welcome, Jackie. Thanks so much for joining us today on Every Today.
Oh, good to be here.
We appreciate it. Okay, so the first one is war on coal. This is Mitt Romney's attack ad. It's sort of a claim that Obama is waging a war on coal, depriving coal miners of making a living, and Romney is surrounded by gritty and hardworking miners, and he asks, we've got 250 years of coal. So let's go to the ad. We're going to show it for you.
Obama's ruining the coal industry. Policies that the current administration's got is attacking my livelihood.
They're wanting to close these mines down. I got little ones at home, a wife that's needing me.
We have 250 years of coal. Why wouldn't we use it? Utility bills are up. People wonder how they're going to have a brighter future if they can't see how they can make it to the end of the next month.
I'm Mitt Romney, and I approve this message.
All right, Jackie. So what is the underlying message there behind that war on coal ad, would you say?
Well, you've got to ask the question, why would there be a war on coal? What's wrong with coal? Well, under the Obama administration, the EPA has put stricter regulations on coal, but for good reason, is that coal has much, much more toxic emissions than any other industrial source, any other. And so you've got that. Now, the Romney campaign is making a claim that because of those regulations, which Romney hates, that we're losing coal mines. They're closing, which is true, losing jobs. However, those regulations don't go into effect until 2015.
Interesting. So that's ironic. I mean, it's not even happened yet.
It is. The irony about it is that it's not closing because of the regulations. These mines are closing because of something Romney loves, which is the free market economy. Right now, electricity from natural gas costs less than half than electricity from coal, and that is what is closing those mines.
Interesting. So the whole system and the market itself is actually regulating it.
Exactly.
The invisible hand is working in
something
this
he loves.
arena. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to the Obama ad and check that out. This is called, let me see here. This one, well, it's called Fair Share. Exactly. Let's go to that ad.
Obama, and I approve this message.
When Mitt Romney dismissed 47% of Americans for not pulling their weight, he attacked millions of hardworking people making $25,000, $35,000, $45,000 a year. They pay Social Security taxes, state taxes, local taxes, gas, sales, and property taxes. Romney paid just 14% in taxes last year on over $13 million in income, almost all from investments. Instead of attacking folks who work for a living, shouldn't we stand up for them?
Interesting. Well, he didn't mention that in the debate, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What does the Obama campaign want us to think from watching Fair Share?
That Mitt Romney only pays a little bit of taxes when the rest of us, that 47%, that Romney thinks we are entitled to whatever, that they are not paying enough.
But Romney has a tax bracket that's different from most Americans.
He does. He is only paying 14% of his income taxes, and Americans are paying nothing, that 47%. But you know what? They make the point in the ad that the 47% also pay state, local taxes, gas taxes, property taxes. But let's be fair, Obama's truth team, as they call themselves, is that Ann and Mitt also pay state and local taxes to the tune of $1.5 million last time. Not a small chunk of change.
Sure.
Property taxes, they paid $214,000 for the year, more than the cost of my house.
Yeah, well, I was about to say they have a few more properties than your average person, too.
I think so. Yeah.
Why do some of these ads omit some information? I know that some key information is actually being omitted from the Romney ad.
Yeah, that's right. Is that in the Romney ad? What is I mean, if this is fair, this is not, is those gritty, hard-working coal miners that you see in the back who are losing those jobs. They were forced to stand behind Romney that day. The plant closed down for that event. They docked the workers their pay, told them if they wanted to make it up, they can come in nights, they can come in weekends, but the coal miners contacted a radio station in West Virginia and said, look, we were forced to be here. And the coal mine, Century Mines, said, look, attendance was mandatory, but no one was forced to attend.
Wow, so it's really sort of staged in a way.
Very staged.
And I suppose, I mean, does that come up in Obama's ads too? Or?
Of course it does. I mean, if you look at the Fair Share ad, they let out so much of the information so that the viewer believes what that campaign wants them to believe.
Well, that is sort of the point of them, right, is
Yeah.
persuasion. And we certainly have a lot of ads out there that we're going to continue to see. I think new ones probably being made now that the debate is under our belt, right?
Right. They're putting a lot more money into the ads now, which will be shown not so much in New York, New Jersey, around here, because those states are already decided, but in those 10 swing states. These people are inundated with those ads.
Are we going to have clips from the debate, you think, in those new ads?
We'll see. We certainly had that pirated video of Romney.
Right, for sure. All right,
Yeah.
Jackie Guzda, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here on Ebru today. All right, from the newsroom windows, I saw blue skies, a nice way to start the weekend. And now Matt Locker is here with the national weather. And, you know, Matt, what's up with the Indian summer? What is that?
The Indian summer is only really an Indian summer when the warm weather occurs after the first official frost.
Oh, okay.
So we haven't had that frost yet, so while it's summer-like, it's not truly an Indian
I see.
summer.
We're still just a lingering summer.
We are lingering. And if you've been letting those plans linger for doing any outdoor last-minute work, today is the day to do it for the eastern third of the country ahead of this inbound cold front. If you want to transplant things, get things inside, bring in the furniture, and do it in a nice day, today is the day to do it. Here's what's up. We've got warm temperatures, high 80s, all the way through the 80s. New York City, 77 right now, could very easily cross the 80-degree mark. New York, New Jersey, the Connecticut tri-state area, up into Boston and New England. It's all behind this warm front here. But don't procrastinate on the outdoorsy stuff, because waiting in the wings is this significant cold front. You can see how the temperatures dip, 80s on this side, 50s, and up to the 40s here. As this front sweeps across, it brings much cooler temperatures as well as some rain, because again, anytime we have warm, humid air being suddenly chilled down, it condenses the moisture and then we get the rain. Rain extending from Oklahoma right on through the northeast and into New England as well. Out west, on the other end of the front, we do have a low pressure center, and that is bringing some inbound snow to the higher elevations of Colorado. Denver might even see some snow by tonight, and some snowfall across the northern plains as well. That's a look at your national forecast, and now your morning continues with more of Ebru Today.
All right, Matt, thanks so much. Well, just ahead on Ebru Today, having a hard time staying in shape? You are not alone. Is it hard to get into a workout routine because it's just not fun enough? Well, our four-time Olympic champion will be in studio with a few tips for making working out fun. And Europe's observatory marked its 50th birthday. We'll tell you why there's reason to celebrate.
Welcome back to Ebru Today. Glad to have you with us. Well, Washington, D.C. is known as a place where big ideas and lots of money can muddy the waters in government. Well, now a historic landmark and popular tourist attraction is living proof, literally. Our Washington-based correspondent Robin Hamilton has more in today's D.C. Connection. And Robin, what tourist attraction are we talking about?
Well, Mia, we're talking about the beautiful and elegant reflecting pool. It's the pool where you see at the base of the Lincoln Memorial. It's about 2,029 feet long and has been an amazing marker on the National Mall. However, government officials decided they needed to make some changes with the basin's water supply, primarily because the water used was originally coming from the same supply that the city uses for drinking water. The problem, it was costing the city millions of dollars on the water bill. So the National Park Service, which takes care of the monuments, decided to change the water supply to the tidal basin. The good news, the project has actually saved the city $32 million. Unfortunately, there's some bad news, too. When the pool reopened about a month ago, the waters got cloudy pretty quickly as algae began to aggressively grow. As one visitor put it, the reflecting pool now looks like split pea soup. Officials have explained that with the new water supply to the shallow and warm basin, algae is destined to bloom, an element of the plan that they actually forgot. Now the Park Service must make adjustments to try to figure out how to prevent this from happening again. It's an honest mistake for officials who say they were just trying to save some money and make the city a little bit more green. Literally. Unfortunately, it's a mistake that has visitors grumbling. And who says that murky waters are only in the walls of Congress? Live in D.C. with your D.C. Connection, I'm Robin Hamilton. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Robin. And officials have already spent $34 million on the renovation project. Are you looking for ways to get in better shape? I always am. And right now we're joined by an elite athlete to reveal some of the best kept secrets for staying in stellar shape. Joetta Clark-Diggs is a 4-time Olympian. You've been on 4 Olympic teams, you told me. That is amazing. I'm so impressed to be sitting with you. Thanks so much for being here on Ever Today. All right, let's talk about this. Now, when you're not sprinting and running, what do you do to get in shape?
It's funny. What I do now is I make sure that I stretch and I eat well, and I make sure that at least 15 to 30 minutes a day I do some type of cardio workouts.
Now, when you were on that Olympic level, you were probably doing some amazing things, 8-hour workouts and things like that. But for the average person, like myself, who wants to maybe get rid of maybe 5 pounds or something, how do you tell them to start?
Well, the first thing I do is be mindful of your goals. So often you try and do someone else's goal. What is it that you're trying to do? And after you do that, go about it slowly. Everyone wants to see results right away. So the first thing you do is write down your goal. I want to lose this amount of weight, or more importantly, I want to change my eating habits, and also work out. And I talk about working out, make that part of your life. You're walking, you do exercises, you're stretching, you're working on your core, your stomach area.
And it's even those little things, if you don't have the time, say, to work out for maybe a reason for you're busy during the day, take the stairs, don't take the elevator, do things like that. And also work out with the family. I know you're a big advocate of that, so is Mrs. Obama, of course, and she's been pushing for more families to get into the exercise routine. What do you tell families to do?
Especially with the weather changing and you make excuses about not going outside, you can work out with your family inside. There are activities that you can do inside. You can play games. I think it's important for kids to learn about balance. So you can do headstands, which works on balance and blood flow. You can put on socks on your kids if you have hardwood floors, and you can have them like ice skate on the floors. You can do stretching activities together. You can have competitions. You can have obstacle courses in your house, have them jump over things. Kids like to jump. Right. So have them jump over chairs or jump up on a chair. That works on balance as well. And the most important thing is that you do those activities with them.
Okay, so the big thing is to get moving.
Get moving, yes.
Okay. Now, we have a couple of challenges coming up. Let's not forget that we have the holidays coming up, and everybody's going to be eating a little bit more. What do we do right now to get ready? Should we get even more active?
You know, I would love to say eat all you want and don't do any activities.
Please tell me that.
I cannot tell you that. I can say, however, I will say that it is important to have fun and eat these foods, but it's also important to continue to work out and to burn the calories. I love to cook, so I will have, you know, my macaroni and cheeses and my pies and my ice creams as well. But you can be rest assured that I will be out the next day making sure that I'm walking and jogging and doing those things. So it's important that you have fun and eat, but also make sure you're working out.
What does it take to get onto 4 Olympic teams? I mean, that takes so much endurance and will. And you know, some people may not have obviously that goal, and let's go back to those goals, but they have maybe the 5 pounds, the 10 pounds. Right. You said to write down your goals.
Yes.
What else do you do? What's that hidden secret that you can share with us?
I would probably say the one thing that works for athletes and for people is that you believe that you're going to achieve the goal. So if you set a goal to maybe cut back from your ice cream, instead of having a pint, you cut back to maybe a scoop.
Okay.
So that's the goal. Believe that you can do that and put yourself in a situation so that you're not seeing that every day. So if it's ice cream that you don't want to have, then you can't go buy Rita's every day and try and eat that. because
Now,
that
you
won't
keep
be
mentioning that ice cream. Is that one of your guilty pleasures?
It
'Cause
is.
everybody has one.
It is. That's one of my guilty pleasures. My Haagen-Dazs butter pecan ice cream is.
That's yours?
That's my, yes, it is.
Well, I'll take the pistachio. That's my favorite. So now we want to stay active all year round. We've got the challenge of winter coming up also. But what would you say to somebody who is very discouraged? Okay, so you maybe it's not the 5 or 10 pounds, but it's maybe the 25 pounds, and they're maybe it's a stay-at-home mom or something. What do you say to them? Get motivated. What are your fighting words?
Well, it's okay to have that emotion, discouragement, but I always say determination is like a flashlight. Keep that light flashing, and eventually you'll find your way. So don't give up on yourself.
Did you ever have a moment in your career as an Olympic athlete where you actually started to give up on yourself and had to really dig down deep?
Absolutely. There are times when you don't want to believe in your goals and your dreams, but you put the hard work in, and if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will.
All right, some fighting words there. Joetta Clark-Diggs, we thank you so much for being here on Ever today.
Thank you, Mia.
A pleasure. Well, Matt Locker now is at the Live Touch with the international weather, which begins over the Atlantic. Hey, Matt.
Hey, I'm one of those people on my way to the gym. I will wait to get the parking space as close to the door so I don't have to walk too far to the treadmill.
I believe that about you, Matt.
Here are the Caribbean islands. This is the Atlantic Ocean. Out over the Atlantic, this is the system called Oscar. It's about 23 degrees north by, let's call it 40 degrees west, about 1,000 miles off the Cape Verde Islands. Now, normally the storm would be tracking towards the U.S. or towards the Caribbean. This is the storm here, but the jet stream picked it up, and it's now going to be moving along this trough. And the other end of that trough happens to let out right over the U.K., which is bringing clouds to London, Paris, into Brussels. And you can see the cloud cover with this frontal system, which is, keeping things kind of on the moister side. Until you get down to the Mediterranean, where a big dome of high pressure is keeping the sunshine in clear and plain view. Jiami is over in Asia. It is in the South China Sea. It is this storm right here. It's dropping rain at about an inch an hour with gusts at 70 miles an hour. It is tracking now westward. It was moving east, made a U-turn, trucking west at about 10 miles an hour. Small craft advisories and warnings are posted throughout the region. Now, a cloud of commerce sorts has caught the attention of many in China. Waterfall cloud, and some interesting video from the area of China. Now, this waterfall cloud, or a cloud river, just rolling through the mountain peaks and trees. The site we're looking at here comes to us from East China. It's a rare scene and made for quite a nice conversation piece amongst residents and tourists alike. That's the world around the world in weather, and now we'll give it back to Erin and Mia.
Those are some cool pictures. Thanks for sharing those, Matt. Well, the European Southern Observatory, or ESO, is celebrating its 50th birthday today. Happy birthday, ESO. Erin Ade now brings us more on that. Erin?
I sure do. So, Mia, since 1962, the ESO has provided research facilities to astronomers. It has also built the world's largest telescope to monitor the skies from Chile.
Headquartered near Munich, Germany, ESO operates 3 observatories in the Atacama Desert in Chile. ESO was founded 50 years ago after European astronomers expressed the need for a joint European astronomical research organization that could compete on a global level. Recently, they were able to detect several exoplanets with this enormous telescope. Exoplanets are planets which orbit a star in a solar system other than Earth. In the 1990s, ESO constructed the Very Large Telescope. The VTL, which is equipped with state-of-the-art instruments, uses many advanced technologies. It took the first images of an exoplanet, and its observations have helped to obtain the most detailed view ever of the surroundings of the supermassive black hole at the heart of our Milky Way galaxy. The next step beyond the current facilities is to build the gigantic European Extremely Large Telescope, or EELT for short. The European Southern Observatory's 50th anniversary is being celebrated around the world with numerous events as well as anniversary competitions.
Today, October 5th, 2012, the European Southern Observatory will broadcast A Day in the Life of ESO. Now, that's a free live event on the web, and members of the public are invited to ask questions by Facebook, Twitter, and email.
You know who's going to be checking that out, I bet?
Who?
Matt.
I bet you.
I bet Matt wants that for the weather.
Yeah,
but we'll have to let him know.
Yeah.
All right, happy birthday, ESO. Thanks so much, Erin. All right, still ahead on Every Today. The UN Security Council has strong words for Syria. We'll have the latest on the fallout from the deadly Syrian mortar attack on Turkey. And the race to contain a deadly outbreak. We'll have a look at why hospitals are rushing to warn some patients they may be at risk.
Welcome back to Every Today this Friday. Well, we start with some serious news out of Syria. The United Nations Security Council overcame deep divisions to unanimously approve a statement condemning Syria's shelling of a Turkish border town, quote unquote, in the strongest terms.
Serious situation over there. That mortar attack killed 2 adults and 3 children. Every Today's Sherry Richardson joins us now live from our New York City bureau with more. Sherry, what's going on?
Mia, the council members managed to bridge differences between the strong statement demanded by the United States and its Western supporters and backed by their NATO ally Turkey, and a weaker text pushed by Russia, Syria's most important ally. The press statement read by Guatemala's UN ambassador, the current Security Council president, said the incident highlighted the grave impact the crisis in Syria has on the security of its neighbors and on regional peace and stability.
The members of the Security Council condemned in the strongest terms the shelling by the Syrian armed forces of the Turkish town of Akkale, which resulted in the death of 5 civilians, all of whom were women and children. The members of the Council demanded that such violations of international law stop immediately and are not repeated.
In retaliation to the attack, Turkey responded by firing artillery rounds into Syria. The country also convened parliament for a vote authorizing further cross-border military operations if necessary. The bill to allow the military to conduct cross-border operations into Syria was overwhelmingly approved. Earlier, Syria's UN envoy said his government is not seeking any escalation in violence with Turkey and wants to maintain good neighborly relations. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the United States offered its condolences to Turkey. A State Department spokesperson said Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton spoke to Turkey's foreign minister on the phone and expressed America's sympathies.
The Secretary also used that opportunity to condemn the Syrian attack and to pledge U.S. support for our ally Turkey. I think from our perspective, the response that Turkey made was appropriate. It also was designed to strengthen the deterrent effect so that these kinds of things don't happen again, and it was proportional.
Turkey's prime minister said his country does not war with Syria, but that it is determined to protect its borders and people. Reporting live from New York City, I'm Sherry Richardson. Mia?
Well, Sherry, as we've been hearing, a lot of world leaders condemning that attack. What was Syria's response to the attack on Turkey?
Mia, according to a top Turkish official, Syria admitted it was responsible for the shelling and it has formally apologized for the deaths. Mia?
Certainly a dicey situation. We'll be watching. Thank you, Sherry.
Well, following the deaths of 5 Turkish citizens from Syrian shelling, protesters have taken to the streets in Ankara and Istanbul after Turkey's parliament approved military operations against targets in Syria. Erin Aid has more on this story. Erin?
That's right. Now, around 5,000 people took to the streets of Istanbul on Thursday evening in an anti-war protest. Protesters chanted slogans against the war as they carried anti-government banners.
After a peaceful beginning to the demonstrations, protesters in Ankara clashed with police after they tried to block them from moving around the city. Tear gas and high-pressure water cannons, as well as smoke guns and warning shots, were used against protesters in an attempt to break their lines.
We are against all the war propaganda that's led in this country by different news channels. We are aware that there are many international news channels that are trying to provoke war.
In Istanbul, several thousand protesters gathered in Taksim Square to demonstrate against the threat of war. The international media, the U.S. and Western powers were also criticized by demonstrators. Turkey fired on Syrian targets for a second day on Thursday, but said it had no intention of declaring war, despite tensions after deadly shelling from Syria killed 5 civilians in a Turkish border town of Akkale.
The border violence has added a dangerous new dimension to a conflict that is pulling Syria's neighbors deeper into what already resembles a proxy war.
Yeah, definitely a tense situation over there.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
We'll keep you
Erin.
posted.
Thanks so much, Erin. Well, in other news, President Obama has harsh words for Republican challenger Mitt Romney. With only 1 month left in the presidential election, the candidates are hitting the campaign trail hard after Wednesday's debate. Now, while that debate was considered a win for Romney, the president says it was not a true representation of the man who has been running all along. Our Washington-based correspondent Robin Hamilton has more, and a lot of people are talking about this, Robin.
Absolutely, Mia. Analysts on both sides of the political aisle are saying that Romney did in fact win this first debate. And, you know, the president's team is acknowledging that they will have to change their debate style just a bit. But there has been quite a bit of controversy and criticism against Romney, saying that he changed his message and platform this time around, so much so that pundits are calling him Reboot Romney. It's a charge that the president is jumping on and highlighting during his most recent campaign visits. Both President Obama and Republican challenger Mitt Romney are hitting the campaign trail hard after Wednesday's debate, which was considered a success for the former Massachusetts governor. With a new, confident stride on the campaign trail, Romney reveled in the victory as he made a surprise visit to Colorado's Conservative Political Action Conference.
Last night I thought was a great opportunity for the American people to see two very different visions for the country. And I think it was helpful to be able to describe those visions. I saw the president's vision as trickle-down government, and I don't think that's what America believes in. I see instead a prosperity that comes through freedom.
However, during a campaign rally in Denver, President Barack Obama challenged the sincerity of that vision, saying Romney misrepresented himself on that stage.
When I got onto the stage, I met this very spirited fellow who claimed to be Mitt Romney. But it couldn't have been Mitt Romney, because the real Mitt Romney has been running around the country for the last year promising $5 trillion in tax cuts that favor the wealthy. The fellow on stage last night said he didn't know anything about that.
Now, analysts are saying while Romney's first debate win may earn him a point or two in recent polls, they're not exactly sure how long it's going to last or how much of a difference it will make, because other polls are suggesting that there is still quite a bit of deficit. However, in the meantime, President Obama's team did say again that they are prepping for the next debate and again will change their strategy next time around. Mia?
Well, Robin, what about that 47%? A lot of people are kind of critical of the president for not taking opportunities like that to challenge Romney. Now, how is that being addressed?
Well, you know, ironically enough, that is being addressed by Romney himself, who is now saying that comment was a mistake and that he is, in fact, an advocate for 100% of the people in the United States. Again, there are 13 days left until the next debate, so we will see if that topic comes up again. Back to you.
And, of course, 2 more debates and 1 vice presidential debate. Thank you so much, Robin.
That's right.
All right, and now on to some scary health news. At least 5 people have died from meningitis linked to steroid shots for back pain. A factory in New England is the likely source of the contaminated shots, and it's been shut down. The U.S. government is warning doctors and hospitals not to use any products from a specialty pharmacy that makes Depo-Medrol. It's a type of steroid suspected in a meningitis outbreak that's claimed 5 lives. The shots are apparently contaminated by fungus. Dr. John Jernigan with the CDC says there are now 35 reported cases of the outbreak in 6 states.
CDC is working with state and local health departments to contact patients who may have received injections at the facilities who received the recalled lots of this medication, to inform that they may have been exposed, to find out if they're having symptoms, and to instruct them to seek health care should they be ill.
It's not clear how many people received tainted injections. Richard Jenkins was given 3 shots and had been contacted after, but was not given clear instructions.
They didn't say anything about the meningitis outbreak or anything like that, or I needed to take any kind of precautions, or if I had any kind of symptoms to notify them or whatever.
So far, people in Tennessee, Virginia, Maryland, Florida, North Carolina, and Indiana have all contracted fungal meningitis. 5 have died. All had received steroid shots for back pain.
That's the fear that's been generated, is that there is no way of knowing or protecting against this, because the anesthesiologist who's doing the injection, the nurse who's preparing the materials for the injection would have no idea that this is a contaminated lot.
Well, if you have had a shot for back pain and you have any concerns about this, symptoms usually appear within a month or so of receiving the shot, and they include fever, headaches, and neck stiffness, so look out for that.
We're going to move things over to Wisconsin now, where the Sikh community is still struggling to come to grips with the shocking attack by a 40-year-old man inside a temple on August 5th. Now, 6 people were killed and 3 others injured, including a police officer in that attack. On Thursday, dignitaries from India, including the country's ambassador and the foreign minister, came to pay their respects. Indian dignitaries came to Wisconsin to tour the temple where just 1 month ago tragedy struck. An Army veteran and self-proclaimed white supremacist opened fire, killing 6 worshipers and injuring 3 others. Temple President Satwang Singh Kaleka was killed in the attack. His godson said this visit was greatly appreciated.
We don't have any hatred for that guy. That guy was a psychopath, that I understand. It was a heinous crime. We can never even think about it. But forgiveness, that's what we can do here. We cannot go ahead and tackle it with violence.
Reminders of the shooting were everywhere in the temple. Banners signed by hundreds of well-wishers plastered the walls as heavy security was everywhere. India's Minister of External Affairs described the mass shooting as a senseless act of violence and told the crowd, "I convey the sympathy of 1 billion people," referring to India's total population.
We have been assured by the government of United States that the highest protection will be given to all the gurudwaras, in United States and other places of worship of this country.
The FBI has declared the attack an act of domestic terrorism, but is still investigating what drove the man and whether he had any help. Now, the man, he later killed himself during the attack after he was wounded in a firefight with another officer. His motives remain unclear. Now for a look at what's being covered in the newspapers today, Francesca is over at the Live Touch with a look at the international headlines. And what's making headlines, Francesca?
Well, some of the stuff we've already been talking about, frankly, in Turkey and in Syria. We have here at the Wall Street Journal, we have these troops. These are Turkish troops, as you can see there, getting ready for protecting these Turkish border towns. The headline there is Turkey hits Syria, adds war powers. It's a picture of those Turkish soldiers taking positions in the border town of Akashale, where 5 people were killed on Wednesday. Now, Turkey has attacked targets inside Syria for a second day, and Parliament has authorized the government to launch military offensives into foreign countries, further escalating cross-border tensions just a day after Syrian shells hit that border town. It is unclear whether the strikes from Syria Wednesday were intentional or accidental. Turkish troops now have also gotten the go-ahead from government forces to be sent to foreign nations, citing rising national security threats. Clearly, we're going to continue monitoring that situation, but a tense one over there. The UK's Independent. You might as well have a headline that says poor Barack Obama, because that's kind of what they're trying to say here. It says, could Obama's complacency cost him the election? The paper asks what happened to the president. He's usually known for his uplifting manner and for his way with words, but what happened to him in the presidential debate on Wednesday night? The paper calls Obama listless and lackluster and even unwilling to take the battle to Mitt Romney. The paper says that he was short on memorable lines, and he didn't even mention the famous 47% of Americans who said that Romney had considered themselves victims. He also did not mention Romney's business dealings at Bain Capital, 14% tax rates, Cayman Islands investments, or George Bush. The paper says Obama was giving a rambling lecture Wednesday night, and it could prove quite costly. Clearly, we will continue to monitor that situation. We have a couple more debates coming up and a vice presidential debate. Over to China now, a little bit more fun here. Sometimes here in the U.S. we watch a show called The Voice, or you may have heard of Fox's American Idol. Well, in China, producers have come a long way in making primetime reality shows for Chinese viewers. In this picture in the China Daily says well-known musician Liu Huan will appear in The Voice of China as one of the show's judges and coaches. The China Daily says the past 3 years have been a golden age for Chinese TV reality shows. Singing contests, dating shows, and game shows are popping up, and they seem to imitate other Western shows. This is actually a poster of a dating show over here. And it's said now that people are more focused on getting authorization to reproduce shows like the ones seen here in the U.S. I guess they didn't necessarily always get that authorization before, Mia.
All right, Chinese reality shows, pretty cool. All right, you might need some potato chips with those reality shows, and it may be your favorite snack like mine. But in Cambodia, another crunchy, salty food is fast becoming a delicacy. We'll take a look when Edward Today returns. Well, when you think of the Silk Road, the places that come to mind are China, the Roman Empire, but not necessarily Houston, Texas.
Well, until now anyway, right? That is where the first ever Silk Road Festival is being held. And we have our Ebru Today correspondent, David Norris, live in Houston, Texas at the Silk Road Festival to show us what's going on.
Hey, Francesca. Well, we are just a couple of hours away from day 2 of the very first Silk Road Festival here in Stafford, Texas. Now, Stafford, I'd say, is about 15 miles southwest of Houston, for those of you who don't know. The weather today, perfect. I mean, you couldn't ask for better weather for an event like this, on a day like this. And the good news is, it's expected to last the entire weekend, so we have that to look forward to. Now, 6 different countries, all converging on one tiny southern Texas town, kind of like a flash mob of culture shock. You got to wonder, what do people around here think about that? Well, as far as we can tell, they love it. I mean, I spoke with a woman on my way out of the hotel this morning, and she hadn't heard about it until today, and she seemed very excited. So, it's going to be exciting. How's it all going to go down? Like I said, this is the very first one, so we're going to find out together. I'll tell you what, stick around with me. I'm going to be here the entire weekend. I'm going to find out everything that's going on. By the time this weekend is done, you and I both are going to know everything about the first Silk Road Festival here in Stafford, Texas. Back to you.
All right, now we're going to take you around the world in 60 seconds, and check that out as well.
A close call for passengers of a speedboat in Thailand. More than 24 South Korean tourists were rescued as the boat sank from a leak. Venezuela's President Hugo Chavez greeted thousands of supporters gathered for his final campaign rally in Caracas. Chavez faces the toughest election of his 14-year rule on Sunday. The vote pits him against Enrique Capriles. Spain's royal couple is on a 2-day official visit to Panama. They were briefed on the progress of the Panama Canal expansion project. China is celebrating an 8-day-long festival national holiday thanks to the convergence of the Chinese National Day and the Mid-Autumn Festival. Chinese worldwide celebrate the dual holiday. Australia has unveiled the world's fastest radio telescope. The telescope, operating from the western part of the country, is expected to discover more than 700,000 new supergalaxies.
Well, from the newsroom windows here at Ebru Today, I saw blue skies, a nice way to start the weekend. Matt Locker is here now with the national weather. And is it going to be sunny skies all weekend long there, Matt?
Oh, goodness gracious, no.
No.
Today is the day to enjoy it. If you are east of this frontal boundary, summer-like weather, the rule today from Atlanta. Some showers still rolling off North Carolina. They're going away. Washington, D.C., New York, Boston, very nice, sunny. This is the day to wrap up all of those outdoor projects and pack things away for the winter. Because after we have this nice warm trend, severely cooler air begins to move over and take over the picture. Chicago 54, along with this approaching front, some weather in the form of rain. You can see some pretty strong showers extending across the upper Ohio Valley as well. That'll come on through, and that's why Saturday and Sunday is not only cooler, kind of one of those wet, moist, dank weekends for the eastern seaboard. And that cold front stretches all the way back to Oklahoma. Now in the higher elevations, we're talking about around Colorado. Snow is expected tonight for Denver, and snow is already happening up to the northern plains. Bismarck, Fargo already throwing some salt on those highways. You know what happened in 1963 today? Well, a lot of things happened, but one that we might just not really think about so much. Just remember this guy? We've seen it everywhere, especially on Volkswagen buses. The smiley face was brought to life, and that was by Harvey Ball on this day in 1963. There's a whole foundation based around this guy, and their motto is today do an act of kindness and help one person smile. Hope today's weather brings a smile to your face.
The smiley face. That's great. Thank you so much. Well, a lot of people are smiling in South Africa, and that's where a Turkish festival is taking place to celebrate a union of cultures. Now, South African President Jacob Zuma has inaugurated an Ottoman-style mosque complex in Johannesburg. He was joined at the ceremony by the Turkish economy minister.
An Ottoman-style mosque complex called Nizamiye Kuliyesi adorns the Johannesburg skyline. The complex will also serve as a cultural center for the area. South African President Jacob Zuma inaugurated the complex, along with Turkish Economy Minister Zafer Çağlayan.
Since the declaration of strategic partnership during the 10th African Union Summit in 2008, esteemed members of the Turkish business community, South Africa attaches great importance.
Çağlayan is in South Africa as part of an official visit. A host of South African officials and Turkish business federations were also present at the historic inauguration. The complex was commissioned by Ali Katircioğlu, a 74-year-old Turkish businessman.
I thought about building this mosque in the United States at first. Later on, I realized that Africa needs this more than the U.S. and therefore decided to build it here.
In addition to a mosque, it will include a Turkish school and shopping facilities. A medical clinic, a restaurant, and an Academy of Islamic Sciences are also housed on the premises. The mosque inside the complex is a smaller replica of the Selimiye Mosque in Edirne. Its construction began 3 years ago. The complex is named after Nizam al-Mulk, an 11th century statesman of the Great Seljuk Empire.
Well, a British team behind a project to build a 1,000-mile-per-hour car, can you imagine that, held a successful first test of a rocket that they hope will push the vehicle beyond the sound barrier. The goal is to break a land speed record.
The rocket that a British team hopes will propel a 1,000-mile-per-hour car clears a key hurdle on Wednesday with a successful test.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is what a 1,000-mile-an-hour engineering adventure is meant to look like.
And this is what the Bloodhound supersonic car may eventually look like when completed. The rocket will be twinned with a fighter jet engine from a Eurofighter Typhoon in an effort to smash the existing world land speed record of 763 miles per hour, set 15 years ago by the same team. Royal Air Force pilot Andy Green will be in the driving seat for the record bid.
Yeah, it's a very special day for us. We've been working on the design of this, the Bloodhound supersonic car, for 4 years. We have solved some huge technical challenges in building the world's first 1,000-mile-an-hour car. We've already got the chassis in manufacture. We'll be bolting it together by Christmas and looking to put the engines in and plumb it early in the new year.
Bloodhound will attempt the record on a dry lake bed in South Africa in 2014.
I was driving home from work yesterday. I saw Matt Locker here in one of those supersonic cars.
Yeah, you get so fast that they don't even see you coming. Today is World Teachers Day. Do you want to acknowledge the teachers and their efforts around the world, and that's put together by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Affairs Department.
Very nice. Very good. We would not be here without our educators. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on Ebru Today. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.